lesson we'll be talking about quadratic transformations. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to identify and define the quadratic parent graph, and then see the effects of a reflection and also a horizontal or vertical stretch or compression. And then we'll graph it using these transformations. So a quadratic reflection is when the parabola goes across the axis. If it goes across the x-axis, it's vertical. So you'll see the negative. See how the a is positive in the first one and the negative a in the second one. When the negative is telling you that it's a reflection. A horizontal one, it will be inside the parentheses. Again, the b to the negative b, and the a will be outside of parentheses. So stretch or compression. So we have a again, it's on the outside of the parentheses. So a times f of x. So if a is greater than 1, it means the graph is being stretched away from the x. Away from the x means it's getting thinner. If a is less than 1, which is a fraction, the graph is compressed toward the x. So that means it's getting fatter. A stretch or compression horizontally shows us this b is inside the parentheses. So if b is greater than 1, the graph is being compressed toward the y, and if it's less than 1, it's being away from the y, which again is fatter. So the fraction is actually always a fatter graph. So for example, the following is a graph of quadratic equation and its translation. So the blue one again is the parent graph, which we know is y equals x squared. And so how did this change? The only thing that happened is that it flipped over. So it's just that reflection. So our graph is y equals negative x squared. So this one says write an equation of the function and describe the effects on the parent graph. So g of x is a times f of x minus 1, where a is negative 3. So if we graph that, we know that the a is telling us it's negative. The 3 is telling us it's getting thinner, which is a vertical stretch because it's outside the parentheses. And then the negative 1 is telling us it's going down 1. So the blue one is our parent graph, and the red one has been flipped over, it's thinner, and it's moved down 1. So here we have the parent graph and this transformation of y equals 1/4 x plus 3 squared. So the 1/4 is telling us that the graph is getting thinner, and then the plus 3 means it's moving left 3. So if we graph that one, okay, the thinner means it's a vertical compression by a scale factor of 4, and then it moved left 3. In this one, the negative up front here tells us that it is going to be a reflection. The 2 is on the inside of the parentheses, which means it's a horizontal compression, which means it's getting fatter, and it's going left 1 and down 1. So if we graph this, a reflection, a horizontal compression, meaning it's getting thinner, it's going left 1 and then down 1. So let's look at these. This first one, we can see from the parent graph it's getting wider, and that's really the only thing that it has done is get a little wider. So that means it has to be a fraction, which is that one. The second one, it's a reflection, but it's also getting a little thinner. So that's going to have to be this one, because it has a negative and it's got a whole number there, which means it's getting thinner. This third one is fatter and it moved down, so it's not a reflection. It's going to have the fraction there, and then down 2, and then the last one is just a reflection, so it's going to look like that. So how does the negative sign affect the graph? Well, the negative sign means it's a reflection over the axis. And how does the a affect it? That's telling us whether it's a stretch or compression.